Today we're going to take a look at the 8BitDo retro mechanical keyboard. Let's get to it. The 8BitDo retro mechanical keyboard is what happens when you put an IBM Model M keyboard and a Nintendo Entertainment System in a blender together. The attention to detail in this nostalgia-fueled bit of PC hardware is impressive. While it doesn't say Nintendo or IBM anywhere in the marketing, I feel like the influences go without saying. The keyboard comes in two styles, the N and FAMI editions. This is the N edition, and as you can see, the color scheme and design are very heavily inspired by the Nintendo Entertainment System. The FAMI edition is the same, but has a color scheme and design inspired by the Famicom. A couple of items worth calling out. This is an 87-key N-key rollover mechanical keyboard. It uses KO Box white switches V2, and they're hot swappable, meaning that you can easily swap them out with other switch types. The KO Box white V2 falls into the clicky category, which is going to be obvious once you start typing. It has three modes of connection: Bluetooth, wireless 2.4, and USB-C. There's a physical volume knob, and connection, mapping, and mode buttons. It has a 2000 mAh battery, and all of this weighs in at 2.3 pounds. First off, let's talk about the OOBE. For folks who are unfamiliar with what an OOBE is, it's the out-of-box experience you have from the time you take the device out of its packaging up to the point where you can actually use the device for its core purpose or for what it was advertised as. The out-of-box experience for the 8BitDo retro mechanical keyboard was fairly straightforward. The box itself is sturdy, and the packaging inside keeps things nice and snug. Our package came with a keyboard itself, an add-on called the 8BitDo Dual Super Button, stickers for the Super Button, a USB A to C cable, a quick reference card, and a set of instructions. We first connected the keyboard to a PC using USB-C, and for the most part, everything just worked. Windows 11 picked up the Win key and function keys without issue. The volume control worked without any extra software, though it's locked to increments of 4. We're assuming that this is something that we'll be able to tweak when the official 8BitDo software releases, but at the time of this review, it wasn't available for download. We also connected via Bluetooth and wireless 2.4, and both worked without issue. There's a 2.4 USB receiver stored at the bottom of the keyboard, and connecting that to our Windows 11 PC also just worked. I'm a longtime fan of mechanical keyboards, and I still have an IBM Model M in storage. My daily driver is a Logitech G915, which is a low-profile mechanical keyboard. I switched to low profile a while back so that I could transition between desktop and laptop a bit easier. The 8BitDo uses PBT keycaps that have an MDA-like height, which means that they're made of high-quality plastic and are smaller than full-size keycaps. They're still good-sized keys though. They're about triple the height of my G915. If you appreciate mechanical keyboards, you'll find that typing on the 8BitDo is, in a word, satisfying. The key travel is about perfect to my liking. The tactical and audio feedback is also just about perfect for me. However, if you share a room with someone, they're definitely going to know when you're typing. Definitely. There's a red B and A button on the right side of the bottom row. You can program these using the fast key mapping button. That process is pretty simple. Press the fast key mapping button and it'll start flashing. Then press the key combo that you want along with either the B or A button. Let off all the keys and the light will stop flashing, and your macro's ready. For this example, we mapped Win key plus M to the B button, so now pressing the B button minimizes all open windows. The fast key mapping feature supports up to a 6-key combo. The volume button has a segmented rotation, meaning that you can feel it as you dial it around rather than it being a smooth continual rotation. It's not set to stop when you turn it in one direction or another, so there's no 0 or 100 position. The connection switch is pretty handy. We connected it to our Rogue Ally test bench via Bluetooth and used the USB-C connection to our desktop PC to work on this video. It was nice being able to hop between devices simply by turning that switch. To the right of the dials, you'll find 3 buttons that have little lights above them. We've already talked about the fast key mapping button, so let's go over the other 2. The one on the far left is the pairing button and light. You'll use this button and light to connect wirelessly via 2.4 or Bluetooth. The button on the far right is the profile button. There's no info on this button in the instructions other than the name, so we're assuming that it'll get enabled once they release their software. If we had to guess, we'd say that it'll allow you to have different button mappings for different profiles. I use this often on the Logitech G915, where one profile has mapping for the Xbox game bar and another profile has the same keys using NVIDIA's gaming overlay. This package also came with an add-on that they call the 8BitDo Dual Super Buttons, but we're just going to call them Super Button. It connects to the back of the keyboard through a port that looks like a 3.5mm jack. The keyboard has 4 of these ports, so in theory you can hook 4 super buttons up to your system, but in practice, I'm not sure where you're going to put them all. But physical desktop real estate aside, this is a cool feature. The build quality here is just as impressive as the keyboard itself. The unit feels solid. There's rubber on the bottom that stops it from sliding around, and the buttons themselves are nice and clicky. These buttons are marked B and A, but they're not the same as the B and A buttons on the keyboard, so out of the box, this lets you have 4 custom buttons. This is also where the stickers come in. I think the nuclear symbol on a super button that maps to Alt F4 sounds about right. And while the buttons here might seem comically large, I can think of a few practical accessibility scenarios where they'd be useful. I want to talk about the overall design for a minute. The attention to detail in this keyboard is kind of amazing. For mechanical keyboard fans, the build is great. It feels solid, it's got a nice weight to it. I love the wedge angle. The size and layout of the keyboard itself make it look and feel great. But there's also nice additional touches, like the rubber feet on the bottom that help keep the keyboard firmly in place, and the enclosure for the wireless adapter that holds it in magnetically. And all that alone would make this a worthy contender in the keyboard space, but then there's the art style. The visual merging of an original NES console and an old school IBM mechanical keyboard is expertly done here. From the color selection, to the font choices, to the physical switches, to the power light, it feels like this was designed by people who loved both, and all the little things like this didn't go unnoticed here and really added up. I've seen this as a frequently purchased together item on Amazon, and I feel like I need to mention the 8BitDo N30 mouse. 8BitDo released a mouse a while back, and while it shares the same visual inspiration as a keyboard, it's not on the same level in almost any other aspect. I'm not going to go too deep into it, but I think that it's worth calling out in case you find yourself interested in picking the two devices up as a set. On paper, the N30 covers the basis of the most basic mouse needs, but in practice and ergonomically, it's not something that I would want to use for long sessions, and definitely not for anything precision critical like gaming or video editing. It's functional, but it has some pretty big flaws, with the virtual wheel being one of the biggest. At any rate, I'd only really recommend the N30 as something of a novelty collector's item. Okay, back to the keyboard. So what's missing? There's no backlighting, and this alone may be a deal breaker for some. As someone who hops between devices that have physical keyboards with different layouts, I've come to rely on backlighting as I work into the evening. There's no 10-key keypad. This might be something that could be addressed as an add-on similar to the super buttons, and perhaps that's in the works, but at the time of this review, the only add-on that we know of that works in the ABXY ports is the official dual super buttons. So what are some of its limitations? While the 2 onboard keys are nice, it could use more macro keys. I know that would break the authenticity a little, but with the care and attention to detail that went into the design of the keyboard as is, I feel like the folks at 8BitDo who made this could come up with a good solution. Mechanical keyboards can be a bit of a niche item. Not everybody likes the noise they make. Not everybody sees the aesthetic appeal of the classic look that a lot of them, this one included, has. And that's fine. But if you think you're in that camp even in the slightest bit, this keyboard might not be for you. So what are my final thoughts on the 8BitDo Retro Mechanical Keyboard? If you're a fan of mechanical keyboards, then there's a lot to love here. It's a joy to type on. The tactical feedback is perfect. The physical dials for volume and connection options are much appreciated. The ability for key combo mapping is a nice addition. 8BitDo did a lot of things right here, and what I thought was going to be fan service for Nintendo fans ended up being fan service to mechanical keyboard fans as well. It also helps that this thing retails for $99. Even if it were just the keyboard, I'd say that it was worth that asking price, but it comes with some nice extras to sweeten the deal. Mechanical keyboards aren't for everyone, but for those who are in the market for one, I highly recommend putting this 8BitDo keyboard on your radar. It may look like something that's built for fan service, but it's a worthy contender in the mechanical keyboard space as well. Let us know in the comments if you have any questions or thoughts on the 8BitDo Retro Mechanical Keyboard. And that about wraps things up. Please like this video if you found it useful, and subscribe to our channel if you want more content like this. I appreciate you taking the time to watch this, and we'll chat again soon.